Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Hope y'all having a great day. And with no further ado, let us get into my NFC North predictions. If you haven't checked out either of my AFC or NFC East predictions or my AFC North predictions, I will link them down in the comments below so you guys can go check out those videos, and hope you guys enjoy these prediction videos that I've done for both college football and the NFL as the season rapidly approaches near. So starting off with the Bears, who won the division last year, got a sketchy road game at the Panthers. Carolina has been dealt a horrible blow with injuries. Nick Scorton, um, Chris Brazzell. Trying to think, Taylor Morin and Ike Ekwonu are obviously both out. Ekwonu from that injury in their playoff game, and Morin I think because they found a blood clot, I want to say. It was something like that. So they're out their top two tackles, out a exciting young wide receiver and an edge rusher who they hope to be alongside Jalen Phillips, but still a really good supporting cast. This is a really tough one, but I'm gonna say the Bears on the road get the win. A healthier Bears team, an improved defense, I think so, with Devin Bush, Dylan Thieneman, Kobe Bryant, even though Kobe Bryant will be out. It's 2 months, or was it 2 months or 8 to 2 weeks? I forget. But even though they did lose one of their key additions this offseason, this defense will be better. And I think a road game against the Panthers, they get the win. Minnesota, Chicago. Remember this game from last year, the Monday night opener, when Chicago was seemingly, you know, playing really good on defense and shutting down J.J. McCarthy. Minnesota, came back, won that game. Both teams definitely can compete. I think the NFC North is probably the most competitive division just because all four teams very close, very similar. So I think you definitely could see. And I'm going to say Minnesota gets the win, which might seem crazy, but I think, this Vikings team, very sound. I think, will have better quarterback play. I think that's um, easy to say with Kyler Murray. And I think they get a huge road win against a division rival. I already picked the Bears in my Eagles predictions to get the win, so I think they get back on track with that win. I think a fun Monday nighter, but I think Chicago, who remember went into Lincoln Financial Field last year and pulled off the upset. I think the Bears definitely could be um, underdogs in this game, but definitely can win it. I think they beat the Jets. Picked the Bears when I did my Jets predictions, so no surprise there. They're the better team, and at home at Soldier Field, the Bears should get a win. But a huge test in Week 5 at Green Bay should be an interesting one. I'm a lot higher, honestly, on Chicago than I am on the Packers. And I don't think they start off 0-2 in the division. I think they get a win there to move to 4-1. I think without Parsons and Kraft, um, the defense is very much going to hope to sustain success. But I think unlike that game last year or both games against the second game without Parsons in Chicago when like Green Bay was shutting down, I don't think they're going to be able to do that against this defense. It's going to be more consistent, I think. And while Jordan Love in this offense should hopefully be really good, despite no Kraft and despite a really bad offensive line, I do think um, the Bears go into Lambeau and get a huge upset win to move to 4-1. Then they head to Atlanta, so back-to-back road games should be fun. The Falcons, I've been very disrespectful to them, and you know what? I'm gonna say the Falcons do get the win here. Um, Atlanta, Chicago coming off a huge win against a division rival in the Packers at Lambeau. They might be, feeling a little too, um, excited after that win, and it could be a letdown spot against the Falcons team that has a really talented defense. Offensively, if the QB play is better than it has been the last couple of years, the team, the sky's the limit. And I think this could be a letdown spot where the Bears could be thinking ahead to their next 2 weeks against the Pats and Seahawks. I did have Chicago winning that game against New England. So I just got to keep it the same. I do think Monday night Seattle wins this game. I just think, um, Seattle still one of the best teams in the league. Like that defense gives this team a ceiling of 10 wins at least. I think the offense, no, I know they lost, Clint Kubiak and Kenneth Walker, but they still should be really good. And at home in Lumen Field, one of the toughest places to play in the NFL. Chicago, tough loss. Do you think they bounce back with a win at home against the Bucks? Just think that they can do that. Heading into the bye week at what, six? What are they? 6-3? Yeah, 6-3. Heading into that bye, the second half of the season rolls around. Taking on the Saints should be a fun game. But I think the Bears, the better team, get the win there to move to 7-3. Gonna pick the Lions at home. I like Detroit. Bounce back season should be better, and the Bears maybe 7-3. Kind of saying, hey, we're gonna be better this year. The Lions could humble them on a Thursday night short week. Then we move on to the Jacksonville game. Should be a fun game. Trevor Lawrence, Caleb Williams, the last two very hyped up QB prospects. And depending on if Jacksonville has a really good year at both teams, this could be a really, nice game. I think I'm going to go with the mm, at home. Yeah, I'm going to say the Jags get the win on the road in Soldier Field, but a Jags team very much, I think, will be really good this year. Despite the losses, I think Liam Cohen and this coaching staff are, really good, and I think the Jags could spring a road win. I think the Bears beat the Dolphins. I think I had the Bears actually beating the Bills um in this week 15 game. I think I did. If I did, you guys can let me down in the comments if I had the Bills winning, but I think I had the Bears winning the game. I do think Green Bay gets their revenge in Soldier Field. Early season, Chicago gets the win in Lambeau, but I think late in the year, the Packers get their revenge. Detroit, I think they split that series. Um, I think the Bears get that win, and I think the Bears finish it off with a win in Minnesota to split that series, finishing 11-6, which I know it was the record last year, but a tougher schedule. Um, like even though the team improved, kind of like New England, even though the team improved, um, what's the word? Even though the team improved, I do think that um the harder schedule will make it tougher to win, a lot more games, but there are some spots where they could win more games and I think they're a better team this upcoming year, and 11 wins seems to be, maybe the floor of this team under Ben Johnson. Moving on to the Packers, who finished second in this division. Not high on Green Bay because, the injuries and the coaching staff. How does this team look after blowing that big lead to the Bears last year? Are they ready to um, finally get over that hump with Jordan Love? Week one against Minnesota, I think the Vikings at home get the win. I think we could see a similar situation to like a couple years ago when Green Bay went into Minnesota. Everybody said like the Packers are the better team. Um, they've got the more experienced playoff team, and Minnesota. Not saying they're gonna blow them out, but Minnesota controls this game, and I think gets a huge win um, early in the season to show everybody, kind of like they did a couple years ago when they took on the Niners when Sam Darnold was the quarterback. They kind of everybody was leading San Francisco. Minnesota pulls off the upset, and it was leading to a very good season a couple of years ago that they couldn't replicate with that schedule. I'm gonna switch that Jets pick. So I think I'd have the Jets actually finishing 4-13, not 5-12. I think Green Bay gets the win. It is early in the season, but I think the Packers don't lose. Like Green Bay is very much a team that like they're not going to have these bad losses against really bad teams like the Jets. They beat the Falcons. This Bucks game should be interesting. Tampa Bay, Green Bay, two teams I'm not high on this upcoming season. I think they definitely both could have bad years, but I'm gonna take the team I think will be better. I think they're definitely better coached. I'm not very high on Todd Bowles in this Bucks team, so I think the Packers have to win there. I did have Dallas winning this one, um, in Lambeau, but you definitely could, you know, see the Packers getting the win there. I think they lose to Detroit, which would have a three-game losing streak, but I do think they beat the Panthers in Week 8, a maybe letdown spot for a Packers team, depending on because that four-game stretch, Tampa Bay, Chicago, Dallas, and Detroit, a hard stretch, could be a letdown spot. And then I actually did have them winning this game against New England. I think they definitely could in Foxborough against the Patriots team that very talented, much improved roster-wise, but harder schedule. Green Bay built for these kind of games. And I think Parsons and Kraft should be back by this time. So I think Green Bay will start to, move towards the second half and start to get these wins down. Moving on to the second half of the season with this Minnesota game, I think they split with the Vikings, so I have them winning this one. Do have them off the bye, losing to the Rams Thanksgiving Eve. It's just a tough team. Like the Rams seem like a complete team. Like they have no real weaknesses now. Like the only weakness you could maybe say is that like outside of Nakua and Adams, there's not much at the receiving game. But the Rams, have guys who aren't well known, but always seem to produce. That defense will be humming, and sorry, Green Bay. It'll be a tough night. I do think they get back with a win against the Saints. Um, this could be an upset spot. Maybe the Saints, trying to prove that, they belong. They could pull off the upset. I believe I had the Bills winning this game, which is why I had Chicago winning the game in Buffalo. To drop the Packers. I do think they bounce back with a win against the Dolphins. Should be a fun game, but very much a game the Packers should dominate with how bad the Dolphins are. Houston at Green Bay Monday night. I got to go with the Packers. It's just Houston, a dome team, and a team in a warmer state like Texas, going to Lambeau Field in what this would be January 4th. So, a very, very cold time Monday night. I just think the Texans get that win, and then I think the Packers split with the Lions like they usually have the last couple of years, which would have the Packers finishing also at 11-6. I mean, this division is pretty close. There are very thin margins, so we could see like a four-way tie with how competitive all four of these teams are. And Green Bay technically has a slight lead over the Bears, even though they both finished 3-3 and they split the regular season series. Actually, you know what? Since I am kind of lower on them, I'm gonna say the Bears do sweep the Packers. Which might seem crazy, but I do think um the Bears can sweep them. So 12-5, Green Bay 10-7. Moving on to the Vikings, who finished third, and we have them starting off 2-0, um, which very much could happen. Two division games that very much could go either way. Tampa Bay, this is a 4 o'clock game. Minnesota at Tampa Bay. Maybe after a 2-0 start, they're kind of feeling themselves, and Tampa kind of pulls them down. I do think they beat the Dolphins in week 4. Sorry, Miami, but it's a tough season for the Dolphins, and I think Minnesota gets back on track. This New Orleans game, I think, could be interesting. The Saints, depending on how they start the season, this could be a matchup of two teams, maybe in first place, especially after Minnesota wins the two division games. Mm, I'm going to have the Vikings win this one in New Orleans, although I definitely could see the Saints winning that one. Colts at Vikings. Um, Daniel Jones making his return, after he was on the team's practice squad in 2024. I think Minnesota gets the win there. I do think they drop technically which would be three consecutive if we include the Green Bay game. And they lose to Detroit, lose to Buffalo at home on Monday night. I just think that's definitely a game they definitely could lose. And I think I did have Buffalo winning that game. So I think Minnesota, that would be three straight losses, which would put them at 5-4. That definitely could be like 6-3. That's a really tough schedule. San Fran, or this is a Sunday nighter against the Niners in Mexico City. I think Minnesota gets the win. I think I'm not very high on San Francisco. I definitely think like last year was very much a product of a great coaching job. Kyle Shanahan was able to get the best out of the Niners, but they're already dealing with so many injuries, including Ricky Pearsall, who's going to be out for the year, um, because he's going to get surgery on that on his leg, I think. And I think Minnesota, after 3 games skid, they get a huge win here. I think Minnesota gets a win over the Falcons. I think they beat the Panthers, which would be a huge win. Actually, I'm going to say Carolina gets the win. I think that definitely is a spot where the Panthers could pull off an upset. I did have the Vikings win this Week 14 game against the Patriots, so I think they get the win there. I think they split with the Lions, beat the Commanders, and beat the Jets. Um, Washington at home. I mean, could be an interesting game depending on how. I think Washington will be improved, but not as improved as Minnesota. So I definitely think the Vikings will have the edge there. And I just don't think the Jets are that good. They will be improved from last year, hopefully offensively at least, but there's not much hope for a Jets team that is definitely going to be bad, which would give the Vikings a record of 11-6. Second place right now. It's really competitive in this NFC North. All 4 teams definitely could win double-digit games, and who knows? Maybe this is the first time ever we see all 4 teams make the playoffs. And then, lastly, but certainly not least, the Lions finished last place, though they finished with a winning record. So it's not like they finished like with a losing record, and they're considered the worst in this division. I think they do get off to a good start being the Saints. I think New Orleans is a good team and will improve, but I think the Lions are much better. I did have them losing to Buffalo, so let's have the Bills win that game. I do think they beat the Jets um, in week 3. Should be an entertaining offensive performance from the Lions. This Panthers game, I think, could be interesting. Um, it's a Sunday nighter, so very interesting game between these two. I'm not trying to give Detroit too many wins, but I think I'll have the Carolina Panthers pull off the upset at home. But I think the Lions bounce back with a win for their bye and them winning the next 2. Do think they win against the Dolphins in Miami? And then the Germany game, I believe I did have the Lions winning that one. So I think Detroit does get the win there to improve to what, 7-2, I believe, which, yeah, went on to their second half of the season schedule. Bucks, Lions. I told you I'm not a big fan of this Tampa Bay team. Um, and 9-2 entering week 13. But I did think they lose to Atlanta. A letdown spot there that they beat the Titans. And I think they beat the Giants, which would give them a record of 11-6. Funny how it worked out that way that every team in this division does finish with double digit wins. Bears 12-5. Definitely think they can win this division again. It's really competitive, and with these schedules, it seems like there's more winnable games than there aren't. So they definitely, like, these teams definitely have more wins in there, but I don't want to inflate their records that much. I don't want to give them that many wins because I don't feel like they're going to win as many games as that would seem. So this definitely is more realistic. Green Bay, sorry, 10-7. It's a hard, um, it's a hard division, and I think this technically would knock the Packers out since I have Dallas also finishing 10-7 and winning their game against the Packers. But this would secure three teams from the NFC North, just like they had in 2024, in the playoffs. And, you know, and right now the Bears technically would be the top seed, even though we've only done two divisions in both conference. So you can't really say anything about that. But yeah, those are my 2026 NFC North predictions. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you guys comment, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Um trying to get a lot of viewership and really trying to grow this channel so that we can do a lot more fun things than just me talking from my computer about the NFL. But if you guys enjoy this content, let me know down in the comments. Check me out on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And I'll catch you guys in tomorrow's video, which will be my AFC South predictions. Because the season is rapidly getting closer. So hope you guys enjoy and join for what's going to be a fun both college and NFL season to watch. But until then, hope you have a great day and bye.